Albert stepping up.
Bang! Bang!
It's time to level up your game. Introducing the all-new ESPN app. All of ESPN, all in one place. Your home for the most live sports and the best championship moments.
The electricity is palpable.
Step up your game with no annual contract required. It's the ultimate fan experience. Level up for more on the ESPN app or at stream.espn.com. Sign up now.
Getting ready to step into your career era? Set yourself apart with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Hone your skills with apps like Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, and more, powered with the latest in creative AI. Students save over 55% so you can build a portfolio you're proud of. Launch your future with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Visit adobe.com/students to learn more.
It's Sunday, and you know what that means. Here's Dick Morris on 77 WABC.
Welcome to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
Hello, Dick Morris.
Hello.
Hello, audience.
Yeah. We are in the middle of a major partisan shift in the United States as a result of Trump's election and, more importantly, as a result of what he's done as president. It's an amazing record, and the American voters are only beginning to get it, but they are getting it, and it's causing major changes on the ground in such a way that we have to reconfigure our views of politics. First of all, Democrats have lost 2.1 million registered voters between 20 and 24. 2.1 million.
Wow.
And Republicans have gained 2.4 million. So that's 4.5 total. And that's just in 30 states. Only 20 states, only 30 states report party.
So wait, what's the difference here? What do we gain?
4.5 million.
Wow.
And that's only in half the country.
Wow.
Half of the country doesn't report party registration. So that's huge. It's enormous. And then you got to add the tremendous effect of deportations. Kristi Noem announced that we have already deported, that is, bye-bye, out of the country, 1.6 million people. 1.6 million.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah, that's right.
That's great.
Bye-bye.
I mean, seriously, can you blame them? Both sides, our side for building up our voters, and their side for dumping.
Yeah,
can't blame them.
And in dumping illegals, you're theoretically not really dropping voters because they don't vote. They can't vote theoretically, but in fact, you're dumping representation because the Constitution says you count everybody every 10 years in a census, all inhabitants. It doesn't matter if they're citizens or Martians, but the deal is that once the census is finished, Congress is reapportioned, seats are allocated based on the number of inhabitants in the census. And then electoral votes are the House plus the Senate delegations.
House plus the Senate.
Got it. So, like, Nevada has 2 congressmen and 2 senators, so they have 4 electoral votes.
And New York's got, 8 million?
No, New York has about 20 congressmen now and 2 senators, so they have like 22, I think 25 electoral votes. But the point is that as your illegal population drops and they're out of the country, they're not counted in the census because they're not there.
Well, if they do the census, which is every 10 years.
Yeah.
So they won't be counted once they redo
it.
Right.
But Trump is pushing to get it done after 5 years and not waiting for 10.
Right.
Because of the changes that are coming.
Sure.
And when you take 1.6 million people out of the census, and that's just so far, by the time it's complete, we'll probably be at 8 or 10 million. That really will reduce sharply the Democratic congressional delegations.
Oh, they're sweating.
So you're looking really at a major, significant party change, not just in attitudes, not just in voters, but in reapportionment as well. And that's one of the reasons the Democrats are freaking out so much about reapportionment, because all it's doing is getting up to date on the number of inhabitants in the country. And as the deportations drain the number of illegals from the population, possibly draining 15 to 20 million people, you're talking about major changes in the allocation. It's interesting, this all goes back to slavery. When the Constitution was written, the southern states said, hey, wait a minute, we want representation in the census and in the House for our slaves. Mm-hmm. And the northerners said, no, they don't vote. And they said, doesn't matter if they don't vote. We have to feed them, and they're in our country, and they need to be counted. So compromise was, okay, we will count each slave as 5/8 of a person. And they were included in the census from the very beginning. And the result has been that until the Civil War ended slavery, we've had a disproportionately large number of liberals in the House because the apportionment gave them credit for slaves.
Understandable.
Then after the Civil War, there were no longer slaves as an issue, but then illegal immigration started.
So right there, they should have had some type of amendment or whatever on that.
Well,
because of that.
Yeah, well, they actually did the opposite, because at the time of the Civil War, the North took the position, we don't want these slaves to be counted in the census. Either they're citizens or they're not. And so the 5/8 rule came to be reinforced after the Civil War.
They just wanted to underpad it.
Yeah, to make clear that slaves should be counted, former slaves should be counted in the census.
But not the full human being, just the 5/8 of him.
Well, after the Civil War, the full human being.
Then they went to one?
Then they went to one.
Oh, good.
And that's the provision of the Constitution that means you count all inhabitants, not just citizens, not just voters. But that has a big impact on political representation. And what Trump is doing is trying to end that. And when you combine that with the partisan shift going on in the country, you're talking about the potential of Democrats not winning an election for 10 more years. You're talking about Republicans winning in 26, winning in 28, and then probably winning in 32 or 36.
In other words, they're going to have to
live so long.
They're going to have to play the game in a fair way. All of a sudden, they're going to have to get voters
that's
because they're good and they want to vote for you.
Yeah,
not because the census.
Exactly. So it's a major change, and these changes happen only after a lot of input from Trump. And you see all the news about what Trump's doing. You see all about the good economy. You see all about the tariff revenues. We've gotten $10 trillion, $10 trillion of new investment in the United States.
That's so
since
unbelievable.
Trump was president.
That's
$10
so great.
trillion. And that's having a huge impact on jobs, on wages, on incomes, and Americans are really beginning to feel it. And that's causing a shift in party, combined with the shift in population because of illegals leaving. You're talking about major changes.
But that's not a real number right now. 10 trillion. That's what we're going to see. In the next couple of years.
1.6 is real so far.
Wow, 1.6 trillion.
1.6 million have been deported after only 7 months.
Right. No, I understand. I was talking about the stuff coming in. 10 trillion. Would you say the number was?
Well, the total of the money, $10 trillion, that have come into the United States as investment since Trump became president. It's unbelievable.
So unbelievable.
So with all of this, Trump's ratings have really begun to improve dramatically after his summit with Putin. Trump has hit a wall before of 50%. That was the vote share he got in 24 and was the most he ever polled.
Was it 50 or 49? It was
50, but
Right. He was just under.
But the idea was that every poll that's happened in Trump's second term, he peaks out at 50. But now there's a poll that shows him at 54, Insider Advantage released Monday, after the meeting with Putin. And that's a 4-point gain, obviously, from July. And that's very important. Independent younger likely voters surveyed were behind Trump's boost in popularity. 50% of the independents said they approved of Trump, while 57% in the 18 to 39 age group and 56% of those over 40 said they approve. Compare that with 40.1% of the elderly who said they approve. So a big change here is that of all the demographic groups in the country, the only one that's still slow to increase its approval of Trump are the elderly. And they take a while to learn. They have so much baggage from all the history of people dumping on Trump. It takes a while for that to come around. But Trump now has an advantage among every age group other than the most elderly voters. He's improved among African Americans and Latinos. White voters are a near record 64% approval. Voters under 65 years of age now approve of his job performance overwhelmingly. Only the nation's oldest voters disapprove of his job performance, which is consistent with prior surveys.
Let me ask you, Dick, the interest in political boolah that we talk about, what age group is most interested? Like you just said, the elderly. Are they less interested or just...
Generally, the older you are, the less interested you are. Because the more experienced you are.
And you realize you can't get anything.
Understanding the crap. Yeah, but the older you are, the more interested you are. And the older you are, the more likely you are to turn out and vote.
So I would think, I don't know this, I'm just going to throw it out, you tell me. I would think 27 to 32 is most interested because they're starting to get a paycheck and see the difference in taxes. Is that close?
Right. In the surveys we've done, we find that voters are still college graduate, goo-goo liberals from their campus.
Right.
But then at age 25, they get their first paycheck, and reality hits them like a ton of bricks. And they have to have families and mortgages and taxes. And all of a sudden they begin to get more conservative. But Trump is defying that because of the popularity he's showing in Gen X people. And that's because the left has reached down to Gen X's with gender change and gay marriage and all kinds of stuff that really is alienating young American men. And it's causing a real change in that pattern.
You know, it almost seems like the Democrats, when they have an idea, this gender change or whatever it might be, that they think themselves they're so right and morally right that everyone's going to love it. And I guess that's backfiring once again, like so many things backfire on them.
Absolutely. So when we come back, we can talk about mail-in voting.
And before
big controversy going on.
Before we break, I just want to, the call-in number is 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
This is 77 WABC, and this is the Dick Morris Show. It's Sunday, and you know what that means. Here's Dick Morris on 77 WABC.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Ever since the election of 2020, mail-in voting has been a hotbed of partisan controversy. The fact is that in the 2020 election, Trump won overwhelmingly among people that voted in person, but supposedly lost the election because of mail-in voters.
Yeah, overnight.
And that's always been a source of controversy. Trump claims fraud, and the mail-in voting continued. But in the run-up to the 24 election, Trump first told everyone, don't vote by mail, just vote in person. Then he realized that a third of the country was going to vote by mail, whatever he said.
Had to get on
board.
board.
He had to get them to vote.
Yeah.
So he switched his line to vote any way you can.
Hold on 1 second, Dick. And Dick Morris had so much to do with that. Originally, he would say, hey, I don't want this stuff going on, mail-in vote. And Dick kept saying, listen, you got, I don't know if you said a third, you got a third of the people voting by mail. Sir, you have to get on board. And he said no for 2 weeks, 3-4 weeks.
No,
he
months.
said. Yeah, months. And finally, I don't know how you got to him, but you did.
Well, finally, he began to change.
He started
and
to
it was
see.
slow.
Right.
First, he said, vote any way you can. Then he said, mail your vote. If you have to mail your vote in, mail it in. But eventually he came around.
But you were on him.
In the election, he did okay among mail-in voters. I don't have the numbers in front of me.
Yeah.
But he won the election in part because he was able to get mail-in voters.
You're talking about the last one, 24?
Yeah, 24.
Uh-huh.
But still, the number of mail-in voters dropped significantly. It went from about 40% of the country to less than 30%, less than 20%. But it's still
You quit all mail-in voting went from 40 to 20?
40 to 25%.
Wow.
And in the 24 election, only about 25%
Wow,
were
interesting.
mail-in. But they were still there, and you still had to campaign among them and try to win them.
How do you figure that it went so low? Because of him or
No, because of the experience of 2020. And voters saw that mail-in votings were problematic. And even if the Democrats decided we're not going to trust our ballots to the mail. But that's history. Now what Trump is doing is he's issuing an executive order saying that he's going to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots and voting machines in defective voting machines in countries ahead of a midterm election. Part of his plan includes signing an executive order that bars states from using mail ballots and potentially some voting machines. He said that voting machines are highly inaccurate, as well as more expensive and less reliable than counting paper ballots by hand. He said we're going to start with an executive order that's being written right now, and it's time that the Republicans got tough and stopped mail-in voting because the Democrats want it. That's the only way they can get elected.
Absolutely.
Now, the problem is that the Constitution is very clear that states, not the federal government, decide how to conduct elections. And therefore, a federal executive order banning mail-in voting probably has no legal status. But in my conversations with Trump this week, I said that what he should do is what Texas has done, which is Texas passed a law that said that when you do vote by mail, you have to include the last 4 digits of your Social Security number on the ballot.
Absolutely.
And that was challenged by the left, but the circuit court recently this week upheld that provision and said it's okay to require that. And Trump said, I prefer no mail-in voting. I said, yeah, but it's going to be hard to get rid of that. You're going to have some of it. And it's better if they have Social Security numbers than not, because at least you know they're real people.
Right.
And he kind of was mollified by that.
I know.
It still is a point of controversy.
You have to look at the left, going against it. Oh, we don't want that. It's against whatever they say it is. It's racist or whatever
Well,
they
it's
say.
a way they can smuggle illegal immigrants.
Right. But that's
and
so
get their votes.
it's so there. It's right in your face that's the reason why
Yeah,
they're
but
saying it. They don't care.
But if you acquire the Social Security number, you're not going to have that.
Right.
And
So that's why they don't like it.
Yeah.
The left.
And that's why it's very important.
It's just so obvious,
Now, what's going on in reapportionment
I love
is
this.
that the governor of Texas, Abbott, on prompting from Trump, said we're not going to wait until 2030 to redraw district lines. We'll do it right now. We'll do it right away. And he got a bill through the Texas legislature providing for immediate reapportionment of the congressional districts. And the result of that was that the Democrats gained 5 seats. Republicans gained 5 seats, and the Democrats lost 5 seats, which is very important.
No, that already went through?
Yeah, went through, passed this law. And that's going to be the ground rule for the 2027, 2028 elections and the 26 elections. So the problem is that California is threatening to retaliate. And Newsom called a special session of the California legislature to redraw the California lines, to give the Democrats 5 extra seats to offset the 5 that the Republicans picked up in Texas. Now,
I see he wants to play ball, but too bad.
Yeah, now the problem that Newsom faces is he's hoisted by his own rhetoric, because California changed its redistricting system about 15 years ago, 20 years ago, as a result of reform Schwarzenegger got through, where they said that the districts will not be drawn by the legislature at all. They'll be drawn by an independent districting commission that'll be appointed by the governor and confirmed by the legislature, and will have no partisan affiliation.
Well, hold on. But he's the governor, and he's going to pick them, so he will pick people on his side.
The board exists. It's been running things for the last 20 years in California. And now he's basically saying, put the board aside and now do this reapportionment through the legislature.
No kidding.
And then to mollify voters, Newsom has said, well, we'll get back to a commission doing it, but first we want to get this one through. So the California voters now have to approve a ballot measure that's going on the ballot this November that says set aside the redistricting commission and do your reapportionment based on the legislature just for this time. Then we'll switch back to the commission.
Wow. And how do you think he's going to do with that?
Well, the polling shows him losing that by 2 to 1.
The California polling?
Yeah.
Polling in citizens of California?
Yeah,
Wow.
by 2 to 1, because Schwarzenegger and others have really fought against partisan gerrymandering. And voters in California really believe in their nonpartisan reapportionment.
Well, I have a hard time believing in that.
And so there's so the real question as to whether Newsom wins or not in this special election. And if he loses, it's a real black eye, and it means the Republicans almost undoubtedly have a majority in the House of Representatives. So it's high stakes here, and we don't really know the answer of what's going to come out.
Wow. So Trump orders moral check for new U.S. citizens. The Trump administration is ordering officers at U.S. citizenship and immigration services to take more holistic approach when determining whether to award U.S. citizenship to immigrants, saying they must weigh more factors in determining whether an applicant has good moral character. Excuse me. The Friday memo from the USCIS said officers must now weigh not just any disqualification behavior, but whether those seeking to naturalize are in good standing in the community. Going forward, these officers must account for an alien's positive attributes and not simply the absence of misconduct, the memo states. U.S. law has long prevented those convicted of murder and other serious violent crimes from gaining U.S. citizenship, and applicants were already required to be considered as having good moral character. But the new memo also encourages officers to consider rejecting applicants with other convictions, including drug use or 2 or more convictions for driving under the influence. And they should. Officers are also encouraged to weigh conduct that may not be illegal but frowned upon, such as reckless or habitual traffic infraction or soliciting. And that's right. This should be.
Yeah, and bear in mind that increasingly, if you're a citizen, you're allowed to get a driver's license and can go out and kill people on the road.
Well, first of all, California gave all of those illegal aliens licenses, which was motor voter, and that was our problem also in 24. So California just doesn't care. By the way, we have a story coming up a little bit. You got to check this out. When Newsom says, punch out some MAGA people.
Yeah, punch him in the mouth.
Yeah, come to me. I'm going to wear a Trump hat and shirt from now on and look around for people. Come on. But bring two of your friends with you so it's a fair fight, I'm going to tell them. And I'm the short Italian guy, and I want a couple of 6-foot guys that are on the left side to come at me. Come on, let's go. Let's dance.
All right.
It's true, though.
Now, the negotiations about the Ukraine war are continuing, but have basically stalled. Trump and Putin met. They agreed to disagree, but they agreed to continue to meet. And the things have now dropped dead, or they're in hiatus. And Trump is vowing to return to the table and to demand major changes from Russia. And he's threatening that if they don't do that, he's going to invoke strong secondary sanctions that will absolutely obliterate the Russian economy. Particularly, he's getting India to stop buying Russian oil.
Right.
And India's a huge consumer.
I mean, he's working on it. Is it happening?
Yeah,
I know he's working on it.
And he's gotten India to agree to it.
Wow.
He hasn't imposed the sanctions yet, but he's done a lot of stuff along that way. Mm-hmm. But the key thing that's gone on this week is that Ukraine is now going to be protected by Article 5 of NATO. NATO membership is now on hold. But Trump's point person that talks with the Kremlin, Steve Witkoff, has said that the U.S. could participate in Article 5-like protections for Ukraine. Article 5 in the NATO agreement says that if there's an attack on one member of NATO, it's as if it's an attack on all members.
Sure.
And that's what Zelensky wants to protect Ukraine. Trump on Monday called it a significant step that Russia had agreed that the U.S. and European countries could provide Ukraine with security guarantees. But he appeared to keep any assurances vague and downplayed the possibility of the guarantees being on a par with NATO. I don't know if you define it that way, NATO-like, Trump said, but he hopes that Ukraine will see it in that light. So that's where things now stand about settling that stupid war. Oh. And now it's boiling down to a real estate question about how much of Donbass the Russians get to keep. At the moment, they hold a sliver of Donbass. Donbass means Danube Basin, the Danube River Basin.
Got it.
It's called Donbass. And there are two provinces at issue, Luhansk and Donbass. And in Donbass, the Russians are demanding the entire province, but they only control a small portion of it militarily. So that's the real estate deal. But behind the real estate deal is the question of security for the future of Ukraine, and that may just have been resolved by the Article 5 guarantee.
That's amazing. Amazing. So we don't really know what's going on with Zelensky yet, right? Because obviously Trump's not talking about what Zelensky's saying.
But the point is that once they get the security situation off the table, it becomes a real estate deal like Begin and Sadat about Egypt and Israel, and the precise drawing of the border.
All right, we got a hard break.
When we come back, there was a great guy who just got appointed to the FBI staff.
See you
Deputy
soon.
Director Andrew Bailey, and I want to talk about that.
Okay.
This is the Dick Morris Show on 77 WABC. It's Sunday, and you know what that means. Here's Dick Morris on 77 WABC.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Trump made an incredibly good appointment this week. The Attorney General of Missouri, Andrew Bailey, is leaving as Attorney General to become co-deputy director of the FBI with Bongino. And Bailey has an unbelievable record. I've been following him for years. He initiated a lawsuit that said that the federal government can't tell internet companies what to cover and how to slant the news, and that it can't censor their coverage. Now, he lost that suit by 6-3 in the Supreme Court, but he brought it and is having a real impact on the issue of censorship of the media. And I hope that at some point the 6-3 reverses, and I think it probably will, because the conservatives all voted right on that. But the fact that Trump appointed this guy, Andrew Bailey, to the post, and now is the deputy director of the FBI, is really important. He's going to be a great guy.
I'm just wondering, why he did that. Is there a problem with Bongino or not? I hope not.
Well, maybe Bongino was talking about leaving.
I know. I think and we know Trump what his deal is, so he's smart enough to have someone ready in the background. Okay, ready for me, Dick?
Yep.
This MSNBC, this is great. They're changing the name. Listen to this. MSNBC will change its name to MS Now and lose its Peacock logo later this year as a part of a split from the parent company, NBC Universal.
The Peacock is dead.
You gotta go. I'm not gonna say it. The new name stands for My Source News Opinion World. Yeah, okay. Yeah, My Source News Opinion World. Comcast and NBC Universal announced in November it's spinning off several of its cable channels, including CNBC, Golf Channel, USA Oxygen E, and SYFY, into new companies called Versant. I believe that smoke and mirrors and just a distraction because of the news program. They don't want to look like they're looking like they want to spin them all off, but bull. This is about CNBC, which stands for Consumer News and Business Channel, will retain its name, but also drop the Peacock logo. Once again, yeah, sure. The Peacock is synonymous with NBC Universal and a symbol that they have decided to keep within the NBCU family. Versant CEO Mark Lazarus wrote this in a memo. This gives us the opportunity to chart our own path forward, create distinct brand identity, and establish an independent news organization following the spin. Once again, they're not creating distinct, they're creating a distance. Reorganizing is a distance.
Yeah, and this is all part of the collapse of the left media. Many voters, majority, said that the networks are biased in favor of the left. And Trump has underscored that in his lawsuits. He sued CBS News for biasing 60 Minutes and editing Kamala Harris's word salad into English and pretending that it was what Harris said initially.
Right.
And Harris had to pay, CBS had to pay $16 million to Trump for doing that.
Right.
And
how come they didn't get $500 million award for Trump? How come he didn't get that award when he has to pay every time they award somebody for Donald Trump to pay? It's $500 million, it's $200 million, $88 million. How come they didn't get that $16 million?
Right.
That's chump change.
It's Trump change.
Very good. We got to do stand-up someday. But you could sit.
But the key thing here is that the left media is in retreat. Paramount has taken over CBS. And now MSNBC is changing its name. And you got to assume that included in that is some change in its content and change in its viewership. So clearly the left is responding to Trump's victory, and it's a very good thing.
Beautiful.
Now, in the negotiations with Ukraine, Trump has now agreed that there will be no U.S. boots on the ground in a post-peace Ukraine deal, because that'll be done by the European states. More details about the under-negotiation coalition of the willing security force to be deployed in Ukraine on a deterrence mission in the event of an agreement with Moscow emerged on Tuesday, as Trump gave an absolute guarantee that there would be no American troops sent to Ukraine. When asked during a Fox News interview whether he would be able to guarantee that there would be no U.S. troops there, he said the European countries are going to get back to leading their countries. They've consumed thus far more than we are, but there will be some form of security. It can't be NATO because that's not going to happen, but it will be something. Now, this reminds me of the story of deploying peacekeepers in Bosnia.
Wait, Dick, 1 second. You didn't read the part where he says, Trump replies, "You have my assurance and I'm president."
Yeah.
You know why? I wanted to come up with the story when he said to you, you know, Dick.
I'm president. Yeah.
Let it go. some other time.
He said that American support would take the form of air support, where that means combat air patrols and air policing for the deployment of intelligence assets to feed information is unclear. Nevertheless, Trump said when it comes to security, the Europeans are willing to put people on the ground. They're willing to help them with things, especially by air, because nobody has the kind of stuff we have. So this goes back to something that happened during the Bosnia War. After the peace accords were negotiated at Dayton, Ohio, that settled the Bosnian War, the issue of enforcement came up. And the European countries said, we want U.S. troops on the ground in Bosnia to guarantee that the Serbs don't attack and that the war doesn't start again. And that sent me into a fit because I was worried that there would be a big backlash against Clinton for deploying ground troops in Bosnia. Mm-hmm. So Clinton got me on the phone and he said, don't tell me what not to do. Tell me how to do it. I got to put troops in Bosnia. How do I do it without paying for it politically? So I said, I'll take a poll, and I did. And I asked American voters what kind of involvement in Bosnia they would support. Was it okay to police the polling places to make sure there was no violence? Yes. Was it okay to hunt through the mountains for war criminals? No. Was it okay to police arms shipments so that we know that they arrive safely to the Bosnians? Yes. So I gave Trump that list of yeses and nos. And I gave Clinton that list. And when Clinton announced the deployment of peacekeepers to Bosnia, he included that list. And the result was that nobody was hurt in Bosnia. There were no deaths. Nobody stubbed their toe there. And I think that probably is going to be the precedent for how they deal with Ukraine. Let's go to Sandra in New Jersey.
Hi, Sandra. You playing piano? Hi, Sandra.
Oh, hello. I'm watering my plants right now, Douglas. But I want.
Do you sing to them instead of play piano while you water them?
I do talk to them. I have orchids that keep growing back over and over. I can't get over it.
Oh, you sound like Roxana.
Turn on WABC. It encourages plants.
You sound like Roxana. She talks to all her plants and the grass and the dirt and the rocks. Okay, whatever.
Oh, it's true. They really feel you. But anyway, I called to comment on the mail-in ballots that you spoke about earlier. I'm all for it. I don't trust those electronic machines at all. They're inaccurate, and you can fool people with that. But what I wanted to say, Dick and Doug, Trump faces a big challenge with that because Oregon, Washington, and Hawaii, that's all they ever did, and that's all they want to do. And that's going to be a problem. And you're going to also have a problem with the touchy states that don't want to do this. And some experts are saying Trump, it's too authoritative. He has too much power, and he has no right to dictate. So he faces challenges, but he has 3.5 years to do this, and I hope he does it. What do you think?
He wants to do it for the midterm elections, but I've suggested that I think it's a compromise to him that I think he's going to adopt, which is make states include Social Security numbers in the ballot so that you know that they're real people who are voting,
right?
Not illegal immigrants.
Right.
I think that may be the compromise that they work out.
And they're going to go to court with this, right, Dick? You know, the states. And once it goes to the Supreme Court, then once that ruling is in, then it's it, right? So that's where we have to...
I think the Democrats are right. The states control that. But I think it's probably okay for the feds to say in federal elections, you got to include your social number. And I think that will be upheld by the court, but we'll see.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you. Good luck with your plants.
Good luck with your
plants. Play WABC, the talk radio. We'll keep talking and
your plants will keep growing.
Let's go.
You know, I wanted to say this about the last topic you just talked about with the Europeans defending Ukraine, and then we will defend those European countries. You know, if they put boots on the ground in Ukraine, Trump said that he would at least back up those countries. He said he's not going to put boots
with air support. Yeah.
Right. So that's a good thing. That's all I'm getting at is that
Now, one of the byproducts of the Trump presidency is that there is an increasing movement going on throughout the country to end the income tax. And that is taking momentum specifically in the state of Georgia. With the 2026 election coming up, Georgia Republicans seeking higher office met Tuesday to agree to exploring plans for Georgia to eliminate the state's personal income tax. The Republican candidates for governor sat on the committee, spearheaded by Republican Burt Jones, who currently holds the role and is running for governor with Trump's endorsement. If we want to continue to stay competitive in the state of Georgia, and I hope Connecticut and New Jersey listen to this, and continue to be the number one state to do business in, we've got to be looking for ways to keep us competitive and make it where we have a competitive advantage over states we're competing with all the time. Most of the lawmakers on the panel praised the idea as one that would help keep working families and small businesses after hearing the importance of that. Currently, 8 states, including Florida and Tennessee, do not tax individuals' income, according to the Tax Foundation. Other states, including North Carolina and Louisiana, have reduced income taxes on their way to eliminating them entirely. And there is no reason for Connecticut or New Jersey to keep their income tax, or New York for that matter. The reason they're there is to placate the unions and to give them a basis for getting these huge wage increases in their agreements that drive the city and the state to the verge of bankruptcy. And the move for tax-free states is spurred by the incredible economic growth of Florida and Texas, 2 states that don't have income taxes. And the lack of an income tax is key. In Connecticut in particular, for many decades, Connecticut did not have an income tax. And then the Liberals, led by Lowell Weicker, who was governor at the time.
When was this?
Insisted that they put in an income tax. And the minute that happened, Connecticut fell apart. And it dropped to the middle of the country from the top as the state to do business in. Unemployment rose and the deficits mounted. And the other states are learning from that, and hopefully we'll get rid of the income tax.
Okay, when we get back, we're going to talk about New York City and the kids.
This is 77 WABC, and this is the Dick Morris Show. It's Sunday, and you know what that means. Here's Dick Morris on 77 WABC.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Let's go to Elaine in New Jersey.
Hi, Elaine.
Hi, it's been so long. I had 2 topics. The first one is I mailed a letter to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on July 25th. I never received any reply. I realize he's very busy. Is there any way that you have access to him? Ask him if he received my letter?
No, I can't, but good luck.
And also Letitia James, I hope, is she going to go to jail finally?
I think so.
Well, she might. I think that she will be prosecuted for mortgage fraud. I'm not sure that they'll send her to jail. But
I think she's going to jail.
I do think she'll be removed as Attorney General.
No, she's going to get in trouble. We have a story coming up on that in a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. But let me talk about this one story, big games for New York City kids do too.
This is important because in the election, even in New York City, we're overlooking some of the really important education reforms that have finally worked in New York City.
And I am 100% behind Curtis. He has to win. We have to get New York back to what it was like with Giuliani. Absolutely. And so the reason why I even would talk about this is positive to Adams is because hopefully Mondami's people, he draws voters away from Mondami because of this. So a year ago, most New York City public school students in 3rd through 8th grade couldn't read at grade level. Only 49% scored proficient in standardized tests. The latest test results show the balance has flipped, and it's now 57%, thank God, can read. Adams and his administration attribute the success to the new reading curriculum, and there's some evidence to back this up. Reading gains were most dramatic among the younger grades, those using the new reading curriculum. There was an 11.6% point jump in reading proficiency among students in grades 3 to 5 who were in the first phase of schools that started using new curriculums of 2 years ago. The Education's news site Chalkbeat reported, among the second phase of schools which implemented the curriculum changes last year, reading scores increased 10.4 percentage points. That's great. Also, Black and Hispanic students had much larger gains in 24 than white or Asian students. These test scores could boost Adams' re-election bid. He faces an uphill battle running as independent while socialist Mondumi carries the Democratic Party mantle. The rising scores are a rebuke to Adams' critics in progressive status. Now, this is where I don't mind talking about the story because I'm 100% behind Curtis, and this looks like Adams will pull votes away from Mondumi. What do you think about that, Dick?
Yeah, I think, come on, education reform is important.
Absolutely.
In New York, and these are dramatic changes.
Right.
After years of these lousy test scores, we finally have some improvement. And when you read the details of it, they've dropped some of the garbage from the curriculum, and they're emphasizing reading.
Well, like core
curriculum.
What they call that core?
The core curriculum.
Yeah, and stuff like that. Good. Thank God for these kids. They're going to finally learn a little bit.
So Trump has now stepped in and taken over policing in Washington. And the left is saying, Washington's very safe.
Yeah, sure.
The crime rate is down. The murder rate is down. And they're condemning Trump for his power grab.
Well, I love Judge Janine said the other day or a couple of weeks ago, one murder is too much. The homicide rate is down. One murder. Talk to the family of those people. In 2023, the homicide rate for black people in Washington was 82.2.
No, 88.2.
Right, I'm sorry. 88.2 per 1,000 people. The homicide rate
88.2 per 100,000 people. And the homicide rate for non-blacks was 6.1 per 100,000. So you have basically 20 times more likely to be murdered if you're black than if you're white in D.C. Pretty incredible stat.
Just one person murdered is enough, like the judge said. It's down, and they talk about it's down. All right, what do you got here? Dems losing support.
Well, we've done that, but Trump says Chicago is next for the crime crackdown.
Oh, okay. Right. So he said Friday the federal government would turn its attention in Chicago next to the crackdown on crime after surging law enforcement and deploying the National Guard in Washington, D.C. After we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. That's what Trump's talking about. We're going to make our cities very, very safe, he added. Chicago's is a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent, and we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this, and it won't be even tough. Trump said there were African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, I saw this lady talking about this, urging him to intervene in Chicago, a city that has long struggled with gun violence. He indicated his administration will focus next on Chicago before turning others such as New York City. You know what? Because New York City police, New York City right now, the police know Trump has their back, so they're doing a little on their own, not necessarily the administration. You can see the police are being a little tougher.
But of course, the problem is that the Constitution gives Trump special power in D.C. He can do anything he wants. Because it's the District of Columbia, federal. In the states, he can't. Right. And if Trump is going to make a big impact on local policing, what he's going to have to do is tie that to federal aid.
Right, he
and
can't.
say if you're not aggressive in policing and you don't bring down that homicide rate, you're not getting federal law enforcement assistance act funds.
Right.
That's the only way for him to do it, but he'll come to that.
Yeah, he said it's unclear how Trump would enact this because he can't seize control of the local police departments, just like you said. So he'll do it, and he'll figure out a way like he always does.
Now, Newsom faces, as we said, a referendum in California on whether he can set aside the districting commission and have the legislature do it for just once. And his solution is he's going to punch supporters in the mouth.
Yeah, come at it, pal. Have at it.
More when we come back.
I can't wait to tell his story.
It's Sunday, and you know what that means. Here's Dick Morris on 77 WABC.
This is Dick Morris, the Dick Morris Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Sometimes the clowns are right in front of you.
You ain't
like
kidding.
Gavin Newsom.
So, new scum. I think that's what we call him now. He urges his supporters to punch MAGA supporters in the mouth. Really? Give it your best, pal. Oh, Maddie said, take it easy, big tough guy, whatever. He just texted me. Sorry, Maddie, but come at it. You know, where are we going? Democratic California Governor Gavin Newsom continues to spout dangerous left-wing rhetoric, this time inciting violence against Trump supporters and other conservatives. He spewed his venomous bile Wednesday while cosplaying as a tough guy. Oh, see, he could be a tough guy, Maddie, but I can't. On the Siren podcast, during which he urges leftists to punch MAGA supporters. At the time, the Democrat accused Republicans of gerrymandering amid Texas mid-decade redistricting battle. This is radical rigging of a midterm election, Newsom fumed. Destroying, vandalizing this democracy is the rule of law. Yeah, but when they destroy and vandalize people, homes, businesses, burn them down and beat them up, that's okay. That's all right. Oh, no problem. So I'm sorry. I know some people's sensibilities. This is Newsom talking. I respect and appreciate that. But right now, with all due respect, we're walking down a damn different path, he continued. Newsom then blithely extorted violence against his political opponents. We're fighting fire with fire, and we're going to punch these son of a bitches in the mouth. The governor says, yeah, have at it. Have at it, girly man. Have at it. See where you're going to go with this.
Well, if the boxing gloves don't work, Trump is now going to use a paintbrush. Trump administration
This is great. I'll talk about this. The Trump administration has begun painting sections of the southern border wall black, a move officials say will make it more difficult for individuals to climb. First of all, because a white fence isn't as hot as black, you know, when you touch a black car. As a matter of fact, you don't see any black cars in Florida, right? Almost all white or light color. So, Homeland Security Secretary.
This isn't racism, right?
No, not at all.
It's just black fence.
Yeah, that's so messed up that somebody said something about, people don't buy black dogs at the pound because that's so stupid. I can't stand this. So anyway, Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, confirmed the development during a press conference in New Mexico. A decision made at the request of the president. Trump is aimed at using heat absorption to create an additional barrier. I think that's so great. He's unbelievable. Now, if you look at the structure that's behind me, it's tall, which makes it very difficult to climb. Almost impossible, she said. It also goes deep into the ground, which would make it very difficult, if not impossible, to dig under. And today we are also...
They haven't met my dog.
Right. Well, Bandit, my dog. And today we are also going to be painting it black. That's specifically at the request of the president, who understands that in the hot temperatures down here, when something is painted black, it gets even hotter, and it will make it even harder for people to climb. This is so great, Trump. This is his mindset on everything, the way he gets things done, and he gets them done in a certain way. You know what I mean? Like that, making it black.
Now,
unbelievable.
When we get, the lawsuit, we're doing 16 now. The lawsuit against Trump has been thrown out. A New York appeals court on Thursday threw out the roughly $500 million judgment imposed on President Trump and his namesake real estate empire in State Attorney General Letitia...
No, Letitia James, LaShysta James. Say it right. It's LaShysta James civil fraud case, finding it was so large that as to be unconstitutional.
Doug asked me this morning, how do you spell shyster? So I told him, and I said, Doug, your Yiddish is improving.
Yiddish. I didn't know that was a Yiddish name. First of all the old black and white movies, like with Jimmy Cagney and all those guys, the guy's a shyster. They would talk like that. So I didn't take it as that. But good for you, Dick Morris. Thank you for telling me that. The First Department, the First Department Appellate Division majority decision did not reject findings that Trump and his crew committed fraud, but it found that while they had engaged in wrongdoing, the mammoth sum was excessive and unwarranted, calculated far from reasonable approximation. Bull. Just like, did you listen to, what's his name right before us on the Judge Jeanine show? He was saying, right, Concha, he's great. He was saying, and I know this very much, if you're down in Mar-a-Lago, he said the tennis court was worth $18 billion. And plus my artwork that I restored, that down there. But still, the place is absolutely worth so much more. While harm certainly occurred, it was not the cataclysmic harm that can be justified nearly $500 million award to the state. Appellate Judge Peter Moulton wrote in one of these three decisions responding to the Trump appeal, it is a virtue of the statute that Attorney General may act as she did, this LaShysta we're talking about, as she did in this case before a potential catastrophe occurs, to deter further fraudulent business behavior by defendants specifically and to police market behavior generally. However, having achieved these goals, the state is not entitled to compound its victory with a massive punitive fine. Ridiculous. Trump, his sons Eric and Don Jr., and top exec former Trump Organization finance chief Alan Weisselberg and company controller Jeffrey McConney were ordered to pay the penalty in February after being found liable for breaking multiple state laws by fraudulently ballooning Trump's net worth by billions in business deals with banks and lenders. I just
Which
don't
the banks
understand
didn't reject.
Right.
And the banks didn't oppose it. They gave the loans.
Right.
And they continued to do business. But
right. It was like five.
It was Letitia James.
LaShysta James.
Shysta James says that this was the fraud.
Total. Every single dollar was thrown out, even the penalties imposed on us. This is Trump talking, us by the corrupt judge, one of the most overturned in history. Arthur Engoron, I wasn't given a jury during the course of the trial, which lasted a long time, was not given one ruling in my favor by his political hack. But worse than him, if that's possible, was LaShysta James, a corrupt and incompetent attorney general who only brought this case in order to hurt me politically. That's what Trump was talking about. It's a Trump derangement lunatic, he called her. Alina Habba, who was involved in representing Trump in this case, referred to the news to her statement on X, which described the ruling as resounding victory. The court struck down the outrageous and unlawful $464 million penalty, confirming what we have said from the beginning. The Attorney General's case was politically motivated, legally baseless, and grossly excessive, she wrote. President Trump won, and justice won with him. Beautiful. And Eric wrote on X, total victory in the sham New York Attorney General case. After 5 years of hell, justice prevailed. They should be able to sue. Could they get a counter lawsuit for all the bull that she
lock
put
her
up,
up, right?
What?
Lock her up.
Yeah, right. That's the counter
mortgage
lawsuit.
fraud.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And now, go on.
Well, Alligator Alley, a federal judge in Miami, gave the state of Florida 60 days to clear out Alligator Alley, handing environmentalists and the Miskousi tribe of Indians a win if they clashed with Governor DeSantis over the environmental impacts the makeshift site was having in the federally protected Everglades.
The ruling late Thursday from the U.S. District Judge Kathleen Williams, which forbids state officials from moving any other migrants there, deals a blow to what had become a marquee symbol of Trump immigration's policy. The environmentalists who sued called it a huge relief for millions of people who love the Everglades. You ever go to the Everglades? It's just a giant jungle of crazy stuff.
Not jungle, it's like a desert.
I've been through it.
You drive through it and there's not a tree. There's nothing there. It's like completely open landscape.
No, it's got all kinds of stuff growing through. It's a maze. I had a guy that grew up there, a neighbor of mine, when I lived in Naples, Florida. And I have to learn stuff, right? I was a sponge to learn things. I said, take me through there and tell me about this place. And we went through this place, and he said, I grew up here. He was a hillbilly or whatever you call it down there. And he grew up in the Everglades. And he said, once it gets dark, I don't care, you know this place or you don't, you grew up here, you cannot get out of it because of the maze of all of the stuff growing, and it's wild. And he said, you just close your windows. One time he was there with a girl. He said, I closed my windows, shut everything down, and slept until daylight. I mean, it's that crazy. So they don't know what they're talking about. This brutal detention center was burning a hole in the fabric.
This is what the left is saying.
Yeah, burning a hole in the fabric of life that supports our most iconic wetland and a whole host of endangered species. So why are we going to kill any species? From Florida's panther to wood storks. Attorney Elise Bennett of the Center for Biological Diversity, they put that word in there, said in the statement, the judge order came just in time to stop from But let me ask you this. They're going to go to court, the Trump administration, right? It's going to end up at the Supreme Court, right? And then they're going to rule. So this is going to be a stay on this judge's stay, right?
Yeah. And ultimately DeSantis will win. But
they got to go through
this is just
the motions.
A way. It's actually a way for them to raise money because the left groups put out fundraisers based on it, and they get contributions.
Right. So DeSantis is planning to challenge the federal court ruling that'll all but shut down the operations at Florida's makeshift immigration detention camp in the Everglades within the next 60 days, an outcome that could set back the state's immigration enforcement efforts. At a news conference on Friday, DeSantis said the federal judge presiding over the case did not give the government a fair shake and said the state would respond accordingly, and he will, right? This was preordained, very much an activist judge that's trying to do policy from the bench, he told reporters. This is not going to deter us.
And this was part of the whole thing that the Supreme Court ruled on, saying that district courts can't set national policy. And they're just one district, and they can't issue injunctions that affect the whole country.
Wait, wasn't there a ruling on that just a couple of months ago? So how come this is going forward?
They'll claim that this is just for Florida, but...
So the judge did it even though there was a ruling on it, so now it's got to go to court again,
right.
So it just slows it down. Got it. So this is a bunch of boolah. That's a real term, boolah.
In the employment data that you're seeing and the job creation data, they broke it down now by native-born Americans and those who were not native-born. Now, I don't like that because legal immigrants are counted as not native-born. But be that as it may, native-born employment, that is employment to people born in America, has risen by over 2 million jobs since January, while foreign-born employment has dropped by 500,000. During the same period in 24, foreign-born workers were securing half of the new jobs created by Biden. Now, due to Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration, virtually all of the job gains this year have gone to native-born citizens. A big, big difference in the impact of that.
Beautiful. When we get back, U.S. retailers flourishing under Trump tariffs going to be great when we get back.
And when we get back, we're going to have, I think, a call from Curtis Sliwa.
Yes. Yes, we have to call him.
Okay.
Lux, you get that? Okay, well, when we get back.
This is the Dick Morris Show on 77 WABC. It's Sunday, and you know what that means. Here's Dick Morris on 77 WABC.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. So as soon as Trump began to impose tariffs, all the economists said, this is going to cause huge inflation because imports are going to cost more and the retailers will pass this on to the consumers.
Right. So in the tariff economy, retailers who cater to cautious consumers are winning. In a bid to ease the burden on stretched out consumers and undercut competitors, Walmart has kept price increases to a minimum by absorbing much of the tariff cost. We're keeping our prices as low as we can for as long as we can, the Walmart guy said. Walmart is seizing the moment by snapping up excess inventory that other retailers ordered ahead of tariffs and now need to unload. Its CEOs called the buying opportunity outstanding. Amazon made improvements to its delivery network that helped get packages to customers faster and more cheaply. That helped propel a whopping 11% increase in online store sales in the latest quarter, Amazon executive said. So far, tariffs have not made a big impact on its prices, the e-commerce giant said, part because of its low prices, and it's part because of a large share of its sales are groceries, an essential purchase even for cash-strapped shoppers. Tariff-related price increases are prompting more middle and low-income shoppers to focus on needs over wants. Walmart executives said Thursday, because of tariffs, Walmart is raising prices on about 10% of the goods its imports to the U.S., absorbing the rest of elevated costs. So that's so far so good.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's going on with the business community is that each of the executives is facing a choice. Do we lose market share in the United States and keep our profit margins where they are? Or do we go for market share and say we want people to shop at Walmart and Amazon and Costco and all of these other companies?
Explain those two again. Market share.
Well, you have a choice.
The two.
If you're the executive of Amazon or
right.
Walmart, are you going to raise prices, which means fewer people are going to buy your product, but the ones that do will pay you a nice profit?
Which is called?
Or do you say, I want market share. I want to keep my customer base. I want to keep tens of millions of people buying at Walmart, buying at Amazon. And if I have to temporarily absorb these tariff increases, I'm going to do so. And Trump said that's what businesses are going to do.
Right.
That they so value the work in the United States and the market share in the United States, they're not going to screw around by raising prices.
And then they lose their people.
That is exactly what is happening. Trump is totally right.
So the two words, you had market share, and what was the other one called? What
profit.
Share? Profit share, right.
Yeah.
I have to write that down.
And by the way, Trump understood this globally. He understood that you can raise tariffs without getting a price increase, because the companies would absorb it.
Because he's a businessman all his life. That's really
and
why.
he also knew that they were making a lot of money and that they could afford to eat that. Canada, in particular, has surrendered in the trade war. Canada will drop retaliatory tariffs to match U.S. exemptions for goods covered by the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. Canada currently has the best trade deal with the U.S., and while it's different from what we had before, it's still better than that of any other country, said the new Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney. The announcement followed a phone call on Thursday between Carney and Trump. The government cast the step as a way to reset the talks with Washington ahead of the USMCA, U.S.-Mexico-Canada, 2026 review. The Prime Minister of Canada, Carney, said the U.S. commitment to the core of the pact means that the average tariff rate on Canadian goods is among the lowest, and more than 85% of U.S.-Canada trade remains tariff-free. Canadian Mexican companies claim preferential treatment under the agreement. And so what Trump is doing all over the place is he's telling people, okay, I'm going to increase tariffs. And you have a choice. Do you surrender market share or do you keep your profits high? And if you want to keep your market share and you want to continue to be a dominant player in what is by far the world's largest retail market, the United States, eat some of your profits.
Absolutely. Look at a bartender buying you with a drink. After you buy a couple of drinks, he buys you another drink. So you spend a little money and you keep your people at the bar.
Yeah.
That's what Trump is doing. He's
right.
Great. And he's getting rid of it. That was good. Good example, right? Even though I don't drink anymore. He's cutting federal workforce. This is great, too. In what is being called the largest single-year cut in civilian federal employment since World War II, 2025 will end with 300,000 fewer workers employed by the United States government. The federal workforce will drop from 2.4 million to 2.1 million employees, largely as a result of the Department of DOJ effort. Absolutely. So, once again, Trump's a businessman. He knows what he's doing. He really handles this whole thing.
And you're talking about a 10 or 12% decrease in the federal workforce.
You know,
that is just incredible.
And you know, he really, like I just said a second ago, he looks at everything as a business. He doesn't look at it as a political guy that has to get reelected or it has to. And I said this a couple times. I don't think he cares about legacy. I think he knows his legacy is everything he's doing right now. There's not one specific thing that he does. So if one thing's going to hurt him, he doesn't really care as long as the economy's going well and America's getting better. That's going to be his legacy, not one thing he did. And it's amazing how he just handles everything like a business. Really, if you look at everything, even though some things you think, oh, that's political. No, it's not. He's looking at, I want to make this country better. And it turns out to be political because he's doing it, and then he'll get
That's so true. I mean, simplistic, but it's absolutely true.
Just a business. What would I do if I owned Amazon, if I owned the housing thing or whatever? He just, it's amazing.
Now, remember years ago, decades ago, Al Capone was finally arrested and went to prison
for IRS
for
stuff.
Tax evasion.
Yeah, right.
He'd murdered half of Chicago, but nobody cared.
They couldn't get him on anything.
Tax evasion, yeah.
They couldn't get him on it. Does this have to do with my story I'm about to do?
Yeah, there is now a guy who is the head of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, Bill Pulte, who is leading the charge against mortgage fraud. And that they're getting, like they got Capone on income tax.
Right.
They're getting Letitia James and Adam Schiff on mortgage fraud.
So Mr. Pulte, a 37-year-old with 3 million followers on X, is lambasting Fed Chair Jerome Powell every chance he gets, and recently called for a criminal investigation into the Biden-appointed federal governor Lisa Cook over allegations of mortgage fraud. I believe the president has cause to fire Lisa Cook, Pulte wrote. That's not all, Mr. Pulte referred to New York Attorney General LaShasta. Don't call her Letitia. My friend calls her Tush. Not Tish, he calls her Tush. Attorney General LaShasta James and Senator Adam B. Schiff, 4 Brains, California Democrat, to Attorney General Pam Bondi for criminal prosecution. He alleged that they also engaged in mortgage fraud. Oh, really? Pulte's rise as leading Trump enforcer is one of the more unusual plot lines in the president's second term. Democrats say that Mr. Pulte is helping Mr. Trump pursue political opponents, and White House supporters say Mr. Pulte is following the facts. Bill is on fire. He understands the tools we have available to hold these hypocrites accountable for their illegal behavior. Sean Spicer, a first-term press secretary to Mr. Trump and host of the Sean Spicer Show podcast, told the Washington Times, it's great seeing the leftists that weaponized government held accountable. Good for him. And I like Sean Spicer, too. And I love Curtis Sliwa,
who we now have on the phone. Hi, Curtis.
Him. We need you on that wall. Hey, Curtis.
Oh, appreciate the opportunity. I want to compliment Dick Morris. I read your piece in Newsmax. It was outstanding. You broke down this mayoral election. You didn't even yet know that it was announced that I have 4,400 local contributions made that will get an 8-to-1 match in just 1 month alone.
Wow.
That will be announced at the end of this month.
And that's compared with how many Mandami has.
Yeah, well, he has now mostly outside money.
Right.
And
yeah, but
outside money.
He's
is
only got
pouring
about
in.
1,000 local contributors.
Right. It needs to be investigated, Dick Morris, the source of the outside money. Many have alleged that it's dark money that's trying to influence all political races, whether local, regional, national, and that's critical to our country's future, that we keep dark money out of this.
Now, there's a survey by Gotham Polling that the 1,400 likely voters in New York, and nearly half the respondents, 47%, had an unfavorable view of Mandami. The exact same share reported favorable, 47 to 47. This razor-thin balance contrasts sharply with earlier polls, where Mandami's negatives were in the 30 to low 40% range. So there's a gradual souring of sentiment as the campaign has matured. Now, the head-to-head is still terrible. It's Mandami 42, Cuomo 23, Curtis at 16, and Adams at 9. But these things take time to evolve. You know, I've been doing this for 50 years, and I know a lot about it. You don't get voters immediately. What you do is you start with the negative publicity, and in Mandami's case, the facts about him, and gradually it seeps in. And then you see the negatives build up, but there aren't votes yet because there's nobody to vote for. They don't want to vote for Cuomo because there are 6,000 dead bodies from nursing homes that he caused. And they don't want to vote for Adams because of the corruption in new indictments just today. So their only alternative is to vote for Chris Sliwa.
Curtis Sliwa.
But they don't want to vote Republican, and, there's party loyalty and all of that. And it takes a while for these idiots to come around. But they will come around, and they'll come around very quickly and at the end. That's how things happen in New York. So I think you got a good chance, Curtis.
Thank God.
Thank you, Dick. Also, what's happened is originally in the Democratic primary, way ahead of the categories of interest to the voters were cost of living and affordability, and public safety and quality of life were 3 and 4. Now, because of all the bloodshed in the streets of the city of late, the mass shootings, just yesterday alone, I was in the Bronx all day long. You had 5 shot, 1 dead. The day before, 4 shot, no suspects caught. It's turning out that this is not a perception of crime, as Eric Adams says, but that the Bronx may not be burning, but the Bronx is bleeding, and that plays to my strength. So now when you look at the polls, it has almost equal status to affordability and the cost of living, which clearly is an advantage for me, because the other 3 candidates are not considered, law and order candidates. Adams had his chance. He failed. Cuomo is no cash bail, plus raise the age. And we know Zohran Mandami is pro-criminal. He will not even charge them for misdemeanors, and he will not incarcerate them on Rikers Island.
Yeah, that's key, because you look at California and Los Angeles, the district attorney just won't indict anybody. And you can get away with all kinds of mayhem in L.A. without having to pay for it.
And the other thing is, Curtis is on the street. He's walking the street. He's in the subways. This guy, and has been, you made your bones, Curtis, and that's the way it is. That's all I got.
Yeah. And you survived an assassination attempt, which is pretty cool.
And I think when he's mayor, he's going to do what he has to do. He's going to get all the right people in place to straighten out the city, the same way Trump straightened out the country.
People can say they're worried about the cost of living and that they want to be able to get free bus rides and they want to be able to get groceries at a lower price. But they don't realize that if you have to pay for that by crime and you have to pay for that by risking your butt when you're going to and from the store, this is not a bargain.
Interesting.
This is very, very expensive. and that Mandami's not going to do any of the stuff he says he's going to do.
I can't believe there's people that would vote for that guy. That's what I don't understand. What do you think, Curtis?
Well, it's generational. One thing I do agree with AOC. She said it's a generational change. I'm a baby boomer. You guys are baby boomers. Most of our listeners are baby boomers. We are no longer, though, the majority of the population, and we're no longer the majority of the voters. So that's why I spend almost 3/4 of my day in neighborhoods of the 5 boroughs where Zohran Mamdani did very well against Cuomo in the Democratic primary. And I'm going after millennials and Gen Zers because most of them are not spoken for. Most of them are apathetic and indifferent. They've always been in past elections. Right. He has been able to mobilize those who have a left-wing mentality. But I'm telling you, there are a lot of millennials and Gen Zers out there who are not at all thrilled with Mamdani, but nobody's approaching them except for me, and that's going to help in my pathway to victory. Remember, during Trump's campaign, he did extraordinarily well this last time around with millennial and Gen Z males. And that may well have been the difference that enabled him to win the popular vote and the 7 battleground states.
Curtis, how do you get your message out to the people on the left or the people you're talking about? I always have a problem because, we have our people that listen to us. They're conservative. How do you get your message out to the people on the other side?
Well, it's through social networking. The dynamics have changed. It's not your traditional media base. Many of the millennials, Gen Zers, have cut the cord. My wife is a millennial. I go right away and said, Nancy, can we watch the evening news? She looks at me like, what are you talking about? We cut the cord.
Well, I got to say,
it's all about micro-targeting. It's all about taking videos and get them.
And it's also reality. I mean, those are real bodies you're talking about, real shootings, real murders.
Right. And knowing the neighborhoods, that's the key, because you can micro-target somebody right in that neighborhood who's been affected, who might not even know what's been taking place in their neighborhood. You can never do that before.
But listen, to the voters who are considering who to vote for, you got to understand that this is a dynamic process. Stage 1 is you get to confront a guy like Mamdani. Stage 2 is you learn all the crap about him. And stage 3 is you learn that there's an alternative that did not commit genocide, did not get 6,000 people killed in nursing homes, and did not face indictment, but somebody who's honest and will fight crime and effective in Curtis Sliwa. And it takes a little while for that to absorb, but I think it's increasingly going to be absorbed by people.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and it is. Just to give you an update, earlier today I got 2 palm cards that were given to me by Zohran supporters. And for the first time I saw on it, Zohran is for safe streets and safe subways. He knows, Dick, that's his Achilles heel.
Yeah.
He knows that's where he's losing support. But no matter how many times he says, I'm the guy who can give you safe streets and safe subways, we know the only thing he'll give us is chaos and anarchy.
Yeah,
that's right.
Let me just define that a little bit. If this guy Mamdani is elected, the bondholders, the people that finance the city, that pay for our loans, are going to say, I'm not going to give the city money if this guy's not going to collect rent increases from stabilized apartments.
Very interesting.
If this guy's not going to police the streets, if this guy's not going to keep New York safe, I'm not going to put more money there. And just like they did in 1975, they will boycott bonds in New York. And the state is going to have to step in and take over. And the first question is, will we have a governor who's going to be aggressive like Lawler or Stefanik would be? Or will we have someone who'll roll over and play dead like Hochul is doing?
Right.
But I think that Mamdani isn't going to be able to do anything. They're talking about rent decreases and free subways and free
grocery stores.
Where's he going to get the money for that? He's not going to be able to sell any bonds. And the financial community is going to say, either you govern right or you're not getting our money. And I think you're going to see another takeover of city finances by the state. But the state isn't any good. And you're going to see a ripple effect this will not only result in Curtis's election as mayor, but in a Republican governor in 2024.
Right, Stefanik
2026.
And another reason I love you, Curtis, is I'm a dog freak. I'm like, everywhere I go, I got to pet a dog. And you're into the animals. I love that you and your wife do that.
Yeah, well, we have the first ever independent line. Nancy went out and got the signatures that made it official. It's called Protect Animals. So if people can't vote for me on the Republican line, I get it. Some people say, I love you, Curtis, but can't vote for you as a Republican. Everybody loves animals, dogs, cats, and other animals. They can vote for me on the independent line. It's called Protect Animals, which is in favor of no-kill shelters and putting animal abusers in jail.
Good.
And that resonates with Trumpers and Harris supporters and independents.
I thought your Protect Animals line was what you can do with the Democrats.
Listen, I always said I love dogs more than people.
I was saying this guy's really bipartisan. He's going to protect Democrat animals.
So I always say I like dogs more than people. Listen, you take your girlfriend and you take your dog and you put them in the trunk of your car. You drive around the neighborhood for a half hour, 40 minutes. You open up the trunk. Who's happy to see you? No, I love women too. That's okay. I'm just kidding. Anyway, it's beautiful,
but
Curtis.
I just urge people to be patient. Watch Curtis arise. These all happen at the end. It stores up. Madami's negatives keep rising. People will have a negative view of him. They're still not going to vote for Curtis because, they want a Democrat.
Yeah, right.
And then they're going to say, hey, come on, screw it. Cuomo killed all these people. We're still paying $500 million in damages as taxpayers for his sexual philandering while he was governor. How many times is Adams going to get indicted or people on his staff getting hauled off in handcuffs? Right. I'm not going to vote for any of those guys, but there's a guy who's never been indicted, been honest the whole time, never killed anybody in a nursing home, worked hard to keep New York safe, actually took a bullet to keep New York safe, and have a chance to vote for him. And he'll be like LaGuardia or like Lindsay or like Giuliani. He'll be
That's
Republican,
what we need.
But we'll survive that. We'll live for that. The important point is we're going to bring crime down in New York City.
That's what we want you to do.
Well, thank you, Curtis. Go to it, guy.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your analysis because you're spot on, Dick. You've been right before. And on this one, you're right again.
And I've been saying it for a whole year, Curtis. I love it. Thank you, Curtis. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Okay, bye. When we come back,
we're seeing major moves to the right here. And the mortgage fraud against Letitia James and so on. And the Trump is now moving to end affirmative action for Hispanics, a very important program that Trump is pushing.
When we get back. Bye-bye.
This is 77 WABC, and this is the Dick Morris Show. It's Sunday, and you know what that means. Here's Dick Morris on 77 WABC.
Curtis Lee was going to either be mayor or Kathy Hochul's going to have to step in and replace Mandami.
She'll never do that.
And the bondholders aren't going to give New York any money, and none of his campaign promises are going to work. There's no such thing as a free lunch, and it's clear that that Mandami's plans aren't going to work. Trump announced that he's going to end a federal program that doles out $350 million a year to, quote, Hispanic-serving institutions, and he will not defend it in court. The move will sunset one of the largest race-based grant programs in the United States and could be the death knell for scores of similar programs throughout the government. The Department of Education reserves hundreds of millions of dollars in grants for Hispanic Serving Institutions, HSI, Hispanic Serving Institutions. Mm-hmm. Universities where at least 25% of the undergraduates are Latino, and the institutions that are not catering to Hispanics can't access the grants. In June, the states of Tennessee and the Students for Fair Admissions sued the program, which was established by Congress, saying it was unconstitutional to commission grants based on a school's racial makeup. They also noted the program creates federal incentives for schools to engage in affirmative action, which the Supreme Court outlawed in 2023.
That was in 1965, Dick, right, when they established, when Congress established that. So back then you could see, okay, maybe they needed it, in 65.
Now, when an act of Congress is challenged, the Justice Department is charged with defending it in federal court. But this month, the department notified the House Speaker Mike Johnson that it would not be going to bat for the HSI program. I write to advise you that the Department of Justice has decided not to defend the constitutionality of certain provisions of the Higher Education Act of 1965. The Department of Justice has determined these provisions violate the equal protection component of the Fifth Amendment's Due Process Clause. The letter likely spells the end for HSA grants, which the Trump administration is now taking steps to wind down. A senior official in the Education Department said that they are evaluating that and that the $350 million spent on this money may well be unconstitutional. Incredible. Now, while this is going on, we're all focusing on the border and how Trump has stopped illegal immigrants from coming into the United States, and that Trump and Kristi Noem and Holman have deported 1.6 million people. But over half of the illegal immigrants that come into the United States, including the ones that really are threats to national security, because they include Hamas terrorists, don't come in over the border. They come in through overstays on the visas. You get a visa to come in as a tourist, come in as a student. You drop out of college and you become a full-time terrorist, and they don't throw you out.
Right, they drop their visa on the floor and stay.
In decisive crackdown on threats to national security, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has revoked an additional 6,000 student visas, bringing the total to an astonishing 10,000 since the Trump administration's renewed focus on immigration enforcement, reflecting our policy initiative enforced at the highest levels with tangible results. The sweeping action targets visa holders, predominantly students, whose activities undermine U.S. foreign policy and public safety, with a significant emphasis on those linked to pro-Hamas sentiments. The State Department's rigorous vetting, including social media scrutiny, has identified those involved in campus disruptions, criminal acts like assault and DUI, and overt support for designated terrorist groups like Hamas, aligning with the administration's zero policy stance. The policy shift is propelled by grassroots pressure. There's a group called Deport Pro-Hamas Visa Holders Now, which is a website, Deport Pro-Hamas Visa Holders Now. And the whole point of this is to dismantle the Muslim Brotherhood's Islamist movement and its decade-long U.S. settlement initiative. The Muslim Brotherhood is trying to cram America full of Muslim dissidents.
Obama's friends.
Obama's buddies, who are threatening our national security and aggressively disrupting the surging wave of radical foreign students, driving a violent, aggressive new front of the Palestinian Hamas organizing across America. These are subversives who are coming into our country to try to undermine it and to try to change it. They're not immigrants who want to be Americans. They're immigrants who want to destroy America.
Right.
When we come back, we can go back to California and Governor Newsom's threat to punch people in the mouth.
We said that one already.
Go along with him.
I think we did that one already.
Yeah, but we got more.
Okay, good. When we get back.
This is the Dick Morris Show on 77 WABC. It's Sunday, and you know what that means. Here's Dick Morris on 77 WABC.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
Okay, we're going to take a call from Charlie from New Jersey. Hey, Charlie.
Hey, Doug. Hey, Dick. How you doing?
Good.
Doing great.
Good. So, two things I want to say very quickly. One was you when you talk about being 5/8 of a person, you're talking about slaves being counted earlier. Yeah, I believe that's 3/5 of a person. It's not 5/8.
Yeah, you're right.
You're right. Right.
Yeah.
But the other thing I want to say, you just
I don't know which part of the body they don't count.
Oh my God. Go on, Charlie.
The other thing, you just had Curtis on, and I'm supporting Curtis too, and I hope he wins. This guy Mandami, as you said, if he wins, he's already said he's going to put Jabal Bowman in as the chancellor of the New York City public school system. And that guy's a rabid anti-Semite. I mean, he's just terrible, and I think so many businesses will move out, and I think so many people will move out if he.
What's the name of the guy?
Mayor. I was wondering, what do you think?
What's the name? Did you say, Charlie? That he's going to put in?
If Mondummy becomes mayor, I think so many people will move out.
No, but you said he appoints somebody.
I really hope Curtis Sliwa wins.
Who will he appoint? What's the name of the person that he'll appoint?
You said he'll appoint somebody as chancellor of the city university.
What's the name?
Yes, he says Jamal Bowman, the former congressman who got
Bowman. Yes, she just lost her seat. He just lost his seat. Yeah, well, that's important because Herman Badillo, who was almost elected mayor, was the chancellor of the city university, and he said you can't dilute the standards because you're not helping the people, and unless you keep high academic standards. And the degrees don't mean anything. The upward mobility that comes about with being a City College or a Hunter College graduate will not continue. And Badillo really cracked down and enforced quality at the City University. And now Mondami is going to do the exact opposite.
Basically going to water down all our people. We got someone else. How about we talk to Richard in No. Marianne in New Jersey.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi, Marianne.
I came up with a great idea to help President Trump with that he's going to the cities and cleaning them up with, the legality of things.
Right.
The other angle would be through the parents. And without even having to pass any laws, perhaps, they could use the child protective services, those kind of rules.
Right.
You know how you can't do so many things. You can't neglect the children. You can't this. You can't that. Well, I don't think you should be able to let your children have illegal weaponry like guns and knives. And I think you should know that they're carrying them. And how about storing them in your house? I think that should be right. The parents' responsibility to make sure nothing like that is in their rooms, in their houses.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Well, the effort so far, you're right. The effort so far have been to stop people from having guns or to stop them from having them in their home.
No, they have
the key
guns.
question
They
is,
have
do you keep it locked? Do you keep safety on
right.
it? Do you often have codes that you have to put in to activate it? And that would protect people, but also protect the people who live there in the home.
Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you, Marianne.
All right, let's go back to Richard in Bayshore. I didn't mean to cut him down. Richard.
That's okay. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good.
We've had troops in Germany for 80 years, and it hasn't made sense since Putin's rise to power. They need to be repositioned to Poland, Romania, and Moldova, which actually turns out to be fairly important because it's near this Russian breakaway area of Transnistria. It's a sliver between Ukraine and Moldova.
Good for you for mentioning Moldova. I helped get the Prime Minister of Moldova elected, who is a staunch anti-communist, and they're the next country Russia is going to try to invade. But you're right. We have all those troops in Germany, and they're there to make sure Hitler doesn't come back and that they don't start World War III. But that's a little obsolete, and I mean, we agree with you precisely that those troops ought to be redeployed to Eastern Europe, and I'll bet you Trump does that soon.
Wow. Go on, Richard.
Maybe it could be part of the guarantees for the Ukraine. Boots nearby, but not really on the ground, you know?
Yeah, right.
I think Trump's going to make sure that the people that help Ukraine, the countries that help Ukraine, we're going to make sure they don't get
Let's go to
in
Patrick
trouble.
in Indiana.
Thank you, Richard.
Hey,
Patrick. How you doing, Patrick?
Hello. I could comment on a lot of things that you've mentioned this morning, but two are really important: mail-in voting and Amendment 14.
Right.
Amendment 14 starts out. It says all persons born, and then there's a separate phrase there. Two words phrase, or naturalized. That means somebody besides people that were born here, the ones that are naturalized can become citizens. But if you're not citizen, if you're not naturalized, you can't
vote.
You know, illegal voting is illegals that are here can't vote, and
yeah, well, Doug, I think, has been very active on that. And one of the reasons that Trump won is that we deterred a lot of illegal people, a lot of illegal immigrants from voting.
Yeah, we put signs all around in the swing states and in the neighborhoods of people that we thought would be illegal voters. And we said, if you're illegal and you vote, you're going to go to jail, you're going to get deported, all kinds of stuff. And trucks with the digital signs on them driving through the areas saying, if you're illegal and you vote, we're going to catch you, we're going to track you, whatever. And I think it just stopped a lot of people from going out and voting. You know, the Democrats get, illegals and different people to vote. They give them $50, whatever they do, $50 lunch and a bus ride, and the illegals said, nope, not today. I'm sorry. Go, Dick. He's got another story to
Gavin
go.
Newsom is pushing a bill in California that has to be approved by the voters in November for it to take effect. Currently, the districts in California for Congress are drawn by a Citizens Redistricting Commission, bypassing the legislature. Now Newsom is saying bypass the commission and call for an unprecedented and call for an update in the census to counter what Texas is doing. The whole idea here is that the redistricting in California was taken away from the legislature and given to an independent commission.
As you said before,
and that's
right.
resulted in much fairer, much better elections. And the big sponsor for that initiative was Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger,
right,
who's going to be opposing the Newsom proposal. And I think that the Newsom proposal will probably lose. The current polling shows it down by 64
He's a
to
nuisance.
36.
He's a nuisance.
Yeah, he is a nuisance.
That was
Newsom.
Newscum, the nuisance. Well, Dick Morris, I want to thank you very much for a great show, and it's an honor to be here with you. Am I ever going to not say that at the end of the show? I'm not sure.
Yeah, you're allowed.
Oh, I'm allowed.
Honor is not a four-letter word.
No, but really is. It's just amazing to be here with you. And also, let's go out there and vote for Curtis and get all your friends that are on the left out there to vote for Curtis.
And don't go around saying he can't win because he's a Republican. Look at Giuliani, look at LaGuardia, look at Lindsay. Republicans can win. The Democrats just have to screw up badly enough.
And they are.
And they are. What do you want more than a governor that put 6,000 people who have COVID into nursing homes?
Right.
And 6,000 people died. And what more do you want than a mayor who's indicted every month or two? And his aides are hauled away in handcuffs.
Right.
You want to vote for either of them instead of Mandami?
Right.
You got to vote for real leadership, and that's Curtis Sliwa.
He's the man. And he's on the street, that guy. Curtis Sliwa. Right. Anyway, thank you very much, Dick Morris. Beautiful. So let's all say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
No. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
No. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Dick Morris Show. You can hear The Dick Morris Show Sundays at noon. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Roger Stone here for Colonial Metals Group. They nailed every call on gold's explosive rally, beating the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, even Bitcoin. And now they're warning the next surge is already underway. Get their free gold guide now at freegoldguide.com/stone or call 800-747-6589. That's 800-747-6589. Learn how to move your savings into physical gold, 100% tax-free. That's freegoldguide.com/stone.